Are you concerned that there has been a cover-up of sexual abuse of a minor by President Trump? There are missing FBI records that appear to be.
No, we're looking into the accusation by the NPR. We don't know the answer to that. We know what the administration says. We're still looking to get a definitive answer.
Let's slow this down for a second. Right now, Republicans are deposing Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton over connections to Jeffrey Epstein. On its face, that sounds like accountability. But here's the part that's raising eyebrows. At the same time these depositions are happening, there are growing questions about missing DOJ files, including interview summaries tied to allegations involving Donald Trump. Now pause. If this investigation is about transparency, real transparency, then why does it suddenly feel selective? That's what we're going to unpack today. Not with outrage, not with partisan noise, just logic. Because this isn't just about the Clintons. It's not even just about Trump. It's about who controls the narrative when the word transparency gets used. And by the end of this video, you'll see why this story might be less about Epstein and more about power. Let's get into it. In Chappaqua, depositions tied to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation are underway. Republicans say this is about transparency. They argue that anyone connected to Epstein should answer questions. Fair enough. But here's where it gets complicated. Democrats are pointing out something interesting. There were no similar high-profile appearances when billionaire financier Les Wexner was questioned. And now, questions are emerging about alleged missing DOJ documents involving accusations connected to Donald Trump.
Are you concerned that there has been a cover-up of sexual abuse of a minor by President Trump? There are missing FBI records that appear to be.
No, we're looking into the accusation by the NPR. We don't know the answer to that. We know what the administration says. We're still looking to get a definitive answer on that. We'll do one more question. Go ahead.
In the spirit of bipartisanship, would you then ask the Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick to come testify? It seems like he has some information.
That's very possible, and I think I think it's a good possibility that his name will arise in some questioning today.
It'll be on my list, and I have an email I printed off for Hillary to ask about Howard Lutnick today.
Okay.
So
God's watching.
We're asking again, and I want to remind everyone: we've already brought in Alex Acosta and Bill Barr for depositions. That's two Republicans in the Trump administration. So this isn't just about Democrats. This is about anyone that has any knowledge of Epstein, the investigation. I think we all agree the government failed. The government failed the victims. And what our role is, we can't prosecute anyone. But what we have been doing is getting transparency to the American people. We subpoena.
But I also want to say, which I think is very important, that at this very moment, the Department of Justice continues to lead a White House cover-up. And we're going to be demanding, even over these next few days, that the remaining files that have not been released get released to the public. And that includes new files that were just discovered in the last couple days of a survivor that has made serious accusations and allegations against not just Jeffrey Epstein, but also against President Trump, and about abuse that she suffered when she was a minor. We have seen the DOJ files and the archive manifest that clearly shows that the interviews and information around this survivor have been removed and are missing from the DOJ files. Where are these files? Who removed them? Those questions have to be answered. What we have is a survivor that we have verified, that others have verified, and those files are missing. And it's not just those. It's an additional 50% of files that are missing. It is unconscionable, it is illegal, and Pam Bondi and the president need to answer to where those files are. And that's going to continue to drive.
I'm Congressman Suhas Subramaniam. We're here today in New York to talk to Hillary Clinton, and tomorrow to talk to former President Bill Clinton. I want to make clear that there were no Republicans in Ohio to talk to Les Wexner, who bankrolled the Epstein's fortune for the most part, and allowed a lot of his crimes to happen. Yet Hillary Clinton, who maintains that she doesn't recall meeting Jeffrey Epstein is here today, and we have a lot of Republicans here today. That underscores to me the partisan nature of what some of the Republicans on our committee and in Congress are doing, and the way they're approaching this investigation. And meanwhile, they're not holding the Department of Justice accountable for breaking the law over and over again. There's 2.5 million files that have not been released, and now we're hearing and seeing evidence of some of those files, including accusations against President Trump. We know that there are other information in those files that clearly is not about protecting victims. It's about protecting people who committed crimes. And so we, as Democrats on the Oversight Committee, are going to continue to approach this investigation in a nonpartisan way, because all we want is the truth, and we want justice for the survivors, and we want to make sure this never happens again, no matter how rich and powerful the perpetrators are.
That shifts the narrative. Because once that question enters the room, this stops being just about the Clintons. It becomes about consistency. Several Democratic members of Congress are claiming that some survivor interview files are missing. Portions of DOJ archives may not be fully released. Additional material may exist beyond what's been made public. Now, let's be clear. Allegations are not convictions. Claims are not proof. But here's the key issue. If transparency is the goal, then selective transparency becomes the problem. And that's what's driving tension right now.
For people that are following this story and are seeing that there's been a recent controversy and a question on whether the Department of Justice suppressed some of the information in the investigation that would have dealt with President Trump, how would you respond?
Oh, not at all. I mean, just look at the data, right? Under the Biden White House and the DOJ, 0 files were released. No videos, no images, nothing. When we got control of the Oversight Committee, the Republicans released 65,000 documents, and the DOJ has now released 2,000 videos, 180,000 images, and 3.5 million documents and pages. We've been very forthcoming and very transparent. I'd like to know why the Democrats weren't interested in this when Joe Biden was president.
Okay, Chappaqua is about an hour away.
Here we are. We made a lot of accommodations. We came to them, but we just want to find out the truth. We want accountability and transparency for the American people and for the survivors of.
So this has never been done before, and a former president's never been compelled to appear before Congress. Is this where this is all heading as of today?
Well, we've never had a former president either this close to a convicted felon either. I mean, it's problematic.
This isn't just about who's named in a file. It's about whether all relevant records are being treated the same way. That's the question people are actually debating. Step back for a second. Ask yourself, if this investigation were truly nonpartisan, what would it look like? Would both sides feel equally uncomfortable? That's usually the test. Republicans argue the opposite narrative. They point to document releases under their oversight. Tens of thousands of pages released. Video materials. Large batches of archive files. Their position. Look at the volume. This is transparency. Their counter question. Why weren't Democrats pushing this harder during the Biden administration? That's the framing battle. Transparency versus selective outrage. Meanwhile, something else is happening. Discussions about Greenland resurface, Arctic security, NATO positioning. Officials like Doug Burgum and NATO representatives are framing Greenland as a strategic Arctic asset, citing Russia and China activity.
What else can you tell us about that?
Well, Ambassador Whitaker has it right. This is a strategic importance. Think of it as a bookend, Alaska on one end and Greenland on the other, really providing the shield, if you will, to protect North America and the United States. Absolutely critical. And of course, there is more activity up there, both Russia and China active in the Arctic. And we need to make sure that the U.S. is, if we're going to carry on as they call it, the Donroe Doctrine, North and South America, free from these interests of our adversaries, Greenland is key. Some people have described Greenland as, one big piece of ice. It is 2.5 times the size of Alaska, and Alaska is the size of California plus Arizona plus New Mexico plus Texas.
Wow.
And so the 80% of Greenland that it does have ice, the 20% that doesn't in Greenland is the size of California. size of California with 50,000 people living there. There's such an opportunity for the Greenlanders, such an opportunity for North America and the United States in a partnership. Just like, again, when we bought Alaska, there was hardly anybody living in Alaska. When the United States bought Alaska, now 800,000 people, and a major contributor to defense and a major contributor.
Meanwhile, NATO reportedly falling behind Russia and China in the race to build up icebreakers and other tools critical for the potential war in the Arctic. Interior Secretary Doug Burgum is renewing President Trump's calls to take on Greenland, calling it a strategic vital asset for the U.S. economy and national security. The Secretary, of course, will join me at 8 a.m. Eastern, and he's going to talk more about that this morning. But where are the NATO allies at this point? Is this off the table, or is this still a consideration for the United States to use Greenland as a critical security spot? I know the president has discussed wanting to build part of his Golden Dome on Greenland.
Yeah, obviously, Greenland is a critical part of North American security. We have a high-level working group that's negotiating trilaterally with the United States, Denmark, and Greenland.
Now, here's where timing matters. When domestic political pressure rises, geopolitical narratives often intensify. That doesn't mean one causes the other, but experienced observers notice when multiple high-intensity topics hit at once. It shifts media gravity. Let's look at measurable indicators. Recent polling suggests Democrats hold a lead in the generic congressional ballot. Viewership for Trump's recent major address was lower compared to some previous years. That doesn't decide elections, but it does show engagement shifts. And in politics, energy matters.
Are we doing something other than strangling them?
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what we need to do. We need to strangle the regime. For too long, we've been actively, not actively, but passively helping them. We send remittances, we have flights, we allowed luxury goods to be exported from the United States, kind of circumventing the Helms-Burton law. Right now, everything is, the noose is tightening around their neck. They lost Venezuela, which was one of their prime, friends in the region. Mexico is no longer helping them as much as they were in the past, and so they are slowly, strangling to death, which can't come soon enough for me. We need that regime to go.
Yep.
The regime is causing this humanitarian crisis in Cuba, and the faster they go, the faster that we can help the Cuban people.
Here's the bigger takeaway. This isn't about one deposition. It's about narrative control. Republicans want this framed as historic accountability. Democrats want it framed as selective protection. The public wants clarity. And when investigations start looking partisan, trust erodes fast. That's the long-term risk. We'll know more once full document inventories are clarified. Additional depositions conclude. More archive discrepancies, if any, are addressed. Until then, this remains less about scandal and more about who controls the definition of transparency. If you're tired of loud commentary and want breakdowns that actually think through the implications, that's what this channel is for. No panic, no rage, just analysis. Let me know in the comments. Do you think this investigation feels balanced or strategic